Ladies and gentlemen, life often presents us with and to face things we dislike in others and, more profoundly, in ourselves. It's easy to point fingers, to cast judgment, Marcus Aurelius said, and to assume that what we see in others has no real own nature. However, if we are not vigilant, the very traits we despise can take root in us, becoming our own. We must learn to understand the source of our dislikes and turn inward, Marcus Aurelius said, because it is through self-awareness and control that we prevent becoming what we hate. Marcus Aurelius said, we often look at others and find ourselves irritated or repelled by certain traits or behaviors. Whether it's arrogance, selfish, laziness, or even dishonesty, these flaws seem glaringly obvious in others, Marcus Aurelius said. Yet we rarely stop to consider that they may also inform. It's easy to point the finger and criticize, to judge others for what we believe are their shortcomings. However, Marcus Aurelius said, the truth is that the things we dislike in others some idea within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, the concept of self-reflection is not about situations in others, but rather understanding why they disturb us so deeply. Marcus Aurelius said, this is a crucial point. Why does a particular flaw bother us? Why does it spark such strong emotions in us? Marcus Aurelius said, it may be that we are triggered by a quality we secretly possess, but not like to acknowledge. Marcus Aurelius said, perhaps it is something we try to suppress, with others brings those hidden feelings to the surface. Marcus Aurelius said, for example, consider the person who finds these constantly annoyed by others' arrogance. Aurelius said, they may feel disdain for those who act superior or look down on others. Marcus Aurelius said, but is it possible that this irritation stems from our part of that desires to feel superior or better than others? Often, when we criticize others for arrogance, it is reserved for our own insecurities. We might judge others because we fear being judged ourselves. Or we might criticize their arrogance to avoid confronting our own feelings of inadequacy. Similarly, when we criticize someone for being selfish or self-centered, Marcus Aurelius said, it may be worth asking whether we have ever acted in a way that same selfishness. Marcus Aurelius said, we may view ourselves as generous and compassionate, but where we prioritize our own needs over others. Marcus Aurelius said, these moments may not be as overt as the behaviors we see in others, but they exist nonetheless, and often. Marcus Aurelius said, our condemnation of others for being selfish retails with our own desires and motivations. Marcus Aurelius said, the person who constantly condemns laziness might be projecting their fear of their own procrastination. Marcus Aurelius said, or their frustration with the times when they themselves lack the drive to follow through on their goals. Marcus Aurelius said, this isn't about self-blame, nor is it an invitation to feel guilty for being human. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about recognizing that our judgments of others can be an invitation to look inward. When we identify something in another person that bothers us, Marcus Aurelius said, it is an opportunity to reflect on whether that same care exists in us, even if it's in a less apparent form. Marcus Aurelius said, by looking inward, we begin to understand the drive our judgments, and in doing so, Marcus Aurelius said, we can start to develop greater self-awareness. Sometimes this process of self-reflection can feel uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius said, it requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. Marcus Aurelius said, it is often much easier to focus on what is wrong within, to a hard look at our own behavior. But this is precisely the work that leads to growth. Marcus Aurelius said, it's not about beating ourselves up for the troubles, about understanding where these traits might be rooted within us and how we can transform them. The act of looking hard allows to shift from a mindset of judgment to one of self-awareness. Marcus said, enabling us to change the aspects of ourselves that would rather not see. Furthermore, Marcus Aurelius said, self-reflection can lead to greater empathy. When we see in others the things that annoy us, Marcus Aurelius said, we can recognize that these traits are often a result of their own experiences and struggles. Marcus Aurelius said, just as we are shaped by our past and our inner balls, so are they. Instead of harshly judging others for their faults, Marcus Aurelius said, self-reflection helps us understand that we are at war with our own flaws and imperfections. In this way, we can develop greater compassion not only for others as well. In essence, Marcus Aurelius said, self-reflection is a tool for personal growth and emotional reasons. By recognizing the qualities we criticize in others, Aurelius said, we can begin to examine how these qualities might manifest in our own lives. Marcus Aurelius said, this process invites us to take responsibility for all and to become more intentional in how we approach both our inner world and the world around us. Marcus Aurelius said, the next time we find ourselves criticizing someone, it may be worth pausing and asking. Marcus Aurelius said, why does this bother me so much? The answer will write more about ourselves than we expect, and in doing so, Marcus Aurelius said, offer us the opportunity to transform not only ourselves, but we see ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, the idea that focus creates reality speaks to the important attention have on our experiences and our identities. Marcus Aurelius said, what we give our energy to, what we choose to focus, choose a worldview, our behaviors, and ultimately, who we become. Marcus Aurelius said, if we constantly fixate on negativity, on what's rolled world, or with the people around us, Marcus Aurelius said, it's not just the world that we see as negative, but we are also internalizing that negativity. Over time, Marcus Aurelius said, it becomes part of who we are, altering our perceptions in ways we may not fully realize. Marcus Aurelius said, our brains are wired to focus on things, those emotions, particularly negative ones. Marcus Aurelius said, this is known as the negativity bias, a tendency to negative experiences or emotions than positive ones. Aurelius said, from an evolutionary standpoint, this bias helped our ancestors survive by keeping them alert to danger. But in modern life, Marcus Aurelius said, this same tendency can create a distorted view of reality, whereby so much negativity. News reports, social media posts, conflicts, Marcus Aurelius said, and frustrations, that it becomes easy to fall into a pattern focusing on what's wrong. This relentless focus on negativity can lead us to the world as a more hostile and unfair place than it really is. As we focus on the negative, we begin to see more of it, because noticing problems, flaws, and injustices everywhere. Marcus Aurelius said, the more we focus on what's wrong, the more our minds being anchored to it, and it becomes almost impossible to see anything else. Marcus Aurelius, our perceptions shift, and we begin to view the world through a lens colored by negativity. Marcus Aurelius said, what was once a balanced perspective, one, then no bad, now leans heavily toward the bad. Marcus Aurelius said, distorting our understanding of the world around us. This process just affects how we see the world. Marcus Aurelius said, it also affects how we see ourselves. When we focus on negative, we internalize those negative patterns of thinking. Marcus Aurelius said, we become more critical of ourselves, constant looking for the meeks and shortcomings. Marcus Aurelius said, instead of acknowledging our achievements or the positive aspects of our character, we fixate on our failures and weaknesses. This internalized negativity can be incredibly destructive. Over time, Aurelius said, it erodes our self-esteem and prevents us from potential. The more we focus on our imperfections, Marcus Aurelius said, the more we define ourselves by them, and soon may even believe that we are incapable of change or growth. Marcus Aurelius said, it's not our self-image that suffers. Focusing on negativity can also affect our relationships with others. As Aurelius said, if we are constantly focused on the flaws of the people around us, we begin to view them through a lens of judgment and criticism. Marcus Aurelius said, we start to see them only for their mistakes or shortcomings, ignoring their strengths. or the positive aspects of their character. Marcus Aurelius said, "This negativity can create tension, resentment, and dents between us and others." Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we focus on what we dislike about people, the more we align ourselves from them. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy." Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we criticize and focus on the negative, more likely they are to respond with defensiveness, hostility," Marcus Aurelius said, "or indifference, which only reinforces our belief that are untrustworthy or difficult." Marcus Aurelius said, "This principle extends beyond just personal how we approach challenges in our lives." Marcus Aurelius said, "If we are constantly focused on obstacles, could go wrong, it's easy to become paralyzed by fear and anxiety." Marcus Aurelius said, "We may become so focused on the potential negative outcome that we stop taking action altogether." Marcus Aurelius said, "The very energy we put into worrying about fire energy can prevent us from moving forward or taking risks." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's a cycle that perpetuates itself. The more we focus on the negative potential, the more we allow that negativity to control us and limit our possibilities." On the flip side, Marcus Aurelius said, "Focusing on the positive, on solutions, strategies, can help shift our perspective and create a more optimistic." Marcus Aurelius said, "Proactive mindset. When we focus on what we can do rather than on what can't, we begin to take more purposeful action." Marcus Aurelius said, "This shift in focus doesn't mean ignoring the flaws of the world. Rather," Marcus Aurelius said, "it means choosing to give more attention to what's working and to what's good." By doing so, Marcus Aurelius said, we start to see more of the positive in ourselves and in the world around us. Marcus Aurelius, "This mindset doesn't deny the existence of problems. It simply refuses to be overwhelmed by them." Aurelius said, "The reality we experience is shaped by where we correct our attention. If we continually focus on negativity," Marcus Aurelius said, "we're becoming consumed by it. We internalize it, and it becomes a defining part of who we are. But when we choose to focus on the positive, on grow potential," Marcus Aurelius said, "on what's good in ourselves and others, we begin the way we see the world and ourselves." Our reality shifts from one of scarcity and despair to one of abundance and possibility by consciously choosing where we place our focus. Marcus Aurelius said, "We have the power to create a reality that aligns and we want to become." Life is filled with adversity. We all face moments of hardship, stress, disappointment, and next-day challenges. Marcus Aurelius said, "These adversities are a part of the human experience, invisible and out of our control." However, Marcus Aurelius said, "What defines us in these moments is not the adverse, but how we choose to respond to it. Our reactions to difficult situations shape our identity, our growth, and ultimately our future." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's in these moments of struggle that we have the opportunity to demonstrate who we truly are and what we are capable of becoming." It's easy to believe that our circumstances determine well-being, Marcus Aurelius said, but this perspective overlooks the crucial role that our responses play. Adversity is external, while our reactions are internal. When we encounter a setback, a failure, or a challenge, Marcus Aurelius said, the way we react will determine whether we grow from the experience or allow it to define us in negative ways. Marcus Aurelius said, "If we let adversity control our emotions, we can easily fall into patterns of frustration, anger, resentment," Aurelius said, "or hopelessness. In these moments we may feel it may seem like our circumstances are beyond our control. However," Marcus Aurelius said, "this is precisely where the power of self-mastery comes in. We have the ability to choose how we respond." Marcus Aurelius said, "Our responses are not always automatic. While it may feel as though our emotions arise involuntarily," Marcus Aurelius said, "we have the capacity to pause and decide how we wield. This their mindfulness and emotional awareness become essential." Aurelius said, "When faced with a difficult situation, we can practice taking a step back, observing our emotions, Marcus Aurelius said, and choosing a reaction that aligns with our vie of being swept away by the tide of anger or fear, we can act with intention, guided by reason and a sense of calm. Marcus Aurelius said, this ability to control our reactions is no about pretending that adversity doesn't affect us. Marcus Aurelius said, it's about recognizing that while we can't contour events, we can control our internal responses. Marcus Aurelius said, this shift in perspective allows us to approach stacile agency. Marcus Aurelius said, rather than feeling helpless in the face of difficulty, for confronted with an unfair situation or an unkind remark, Marcus Aurelius said, it's easy to react with anger or frustration, wanting back or defend ourselves. But in those moments, Marcus Aurelius said, we have the power to pause, take a deep breath rather than our values rather than our immediate impulses. A controlled response is not the same as passivity or complacency. Marcus Aurelius said, it doesn't mean we should ignore our emotions or let people walk all over us. Rather, Marcus Aurelius said, it means we choose how to express those emotions in a way that is constructive rather than destructive. For example, Marcus Aurelius said, instead of lashing out in anger when someone treats us fairly, we might respond with calm assertiveness. Marcus Aurelius said, setting boundaries and addressing the issue in a respectful way. This approach requires self-awareness and emotional regulation. Marcus Aurelius said, both of which are skills that can be developed. Pertis. Our response shape the way others perceive us. Marcus Aurelius said, when we react to adversity with grace, patience, and compose emotional intelligence and resilience, others are more likely to respect us, trust us, Marcus Aurelius said, and seek our guidance because they recognize that we can remain calm and thoughtful in the face of difficulty. Conversely, Marcus Aurelius said, if we allow ourselves to be controlled by our emotions, we may alienate us or lose credibility. People may see us as unpredictable or volatile, and our relationships can suffer as a result. Marcus Aurelius said, in addition to shaping how others view us, our reactions determine our personal growth. Each time we face adversity, Marcus Aurelius said, we are presented with an opportunity to learn and improve. The more we practice controlling our reactions, the more we develop our capacity for resilience and emotional maturity. Over time, Marcus Aurelius said, we become better equipped to handle even grief and confidence. Marcus Aurelius said, rather than feeling defeated or overwhelmed, we begin view adversity as a chance to test our strength and fortitude. Instead of being consumed by the negative emotions that come with hardship, Marcus Aurelius said, we start to embrace the growth that can emerge from struggle. Firmer our reactions are a reflection of our inner world. Marcus Aurelius said, if we are constantly reactive, quick to anger or frustration, it may be an indication that we need to work on our inner peace, our boundaries, or our sense of self-worth. Sometimes, Marcus Aurelius said, the way we react to others or to situations is a mirror of we are linked with internally. Marcus Aurelius said, the practice of controlling our reactions involves the use deeper layers of ourselves to confront the underlying fears, insecurities, or unresolved emotions that drive our response. Be addressing these issues, Marcus Aurelius said, we can move toward greater emotional freedom. It is not the external circumstances that shape our lives, Marcus Aurelius, but our internal responses to them. Life will confront us with challenges, Marcus Aurelius said, but it is our ability to control our reactions that determine how we navigate these challenges. By cultivating self-awareness, Marcus said, emotional regulation and mindfulness, we can transit into an opportunity for growth, becoming stronger, wiser, Marcus Aurelius said, and more resilient with each challenge we face. How we respond to life difficulties defines who we are and who we will become, Marcus Aurelius said, and in this lies our true power. Negative emotions are an inevitable part of the human experience. Anger, resentment, frustration, envy, fear, these feelings arise in all of us at different points in life. They are not inherently bad or shameful. In fact, Marcus Aurelius said, they serve a purpose. They signal that something wrong, that a boundary has been crossed, or that an expectation has not been met. Marcus Aurelius said, these emotions can be useful indicators, pointing toward areas of our lives that require attention or change. However, while it is natural to feel these emotions, Marcus Aurelius said, it is our responsibility to master them. They do not dictate our behavior or shape our character. Marcus Aurelius said, to master negative emotions does not mean to suppress them. Do not exist. Repression only leads to more suffering, Marcus Aurelius said, often manifesting in unexpected and unhealthy ways. Most used understanding the emotion, recognizing its source. Marcus Aurelius said, and responding to it with clarity and purpose, bring acknowledging the anger, but not becoming consumed by it. It means feeling frustration, but not lashing out. Aurelius said, it means understanding the presence of resentment without allowing it to poison our thoughts or relationships. One of the challenges of negative emotions is cloud judgment. When we are angry or resentful, Marcus Aurelius said, our perspective narrows. We see the world through actions are often reactive, rather than deliberate. We say things we do not mean. We make decisions later regret. Marcus Aurelius said, this lack of control not only harms others, but damages our own integrity. Each time we allow negative emotions to rule us, Marcus Aurelius said, we step further away from the person we aspire to be. Truths in the ability to pause and choose our response. Marcus Aurelius said, even when emotions run high, that pause, that brief moment feeling and action, is where mastery begins. Marcus Aurelius said, it allows us to ask important questions. Why am I feel way? What is the root of this anger or resentment? Marcus Aurelius said, is my reaction going to help the situation? By creating space for reflection, Marcus Aurelius said, we move from being slaves to our emotions being the masters of them. This process requires patience and discipline. It is not a skill we develop overnight. Like any form of mastery, it demands practice. Marcus Aurelius said, the more we pay attention to our emotional patterns, the more we understand our triggers. And the more we understand those triggers, Marcus Aurelius said, the better equipped we are to manage them. For example, if situations consistently provoke frustration, Marcus Aurelius said, we can learn to anticipate those feelings and respond with calm. If specific people evoke resentment, Aurelius said, we can explore why that is and whether it's rooted in own insecurities or unmet expectations. Marcus Aurelius said, mastering negative emotions also means accepting we are not perfect. There will be moments when emotions get the better of us. Marcus Aurelius said, we will still feel anger, we will still feel bitterness, and there will be times when we react poorly. But Aurelius said, but mastery is not about perfection. It is about striving each day to respond with greater wisdom. Marcus Aurelius said, and greater composure and greater understanding than win. Furthermore, when we master our emotions, we gain freedom. Marcus Aurelius said, emotional mastery frees us from being reactive, from being controlled by the moods and behaviors of others. Aurelius said, it gives us autonomy over our inner state, regroup what is happening externally. We no longer allow a rude comment, a betrayal, Marcus Aurelius said, or a setback to dictate the course of our day. It's we can't carry ourselves, how to speak, and how to think. This level of control is not cold or detached. It is grounded, centered, and deliberate. Marcus Aurelius said, there is also a quiet dignity in mastering our negations, when we respond to provocation with calm, when we refuse to let resentment fester. Marcus Aurelius said, when we walk away from anger instead of fueling it not only to others, but to ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, we affirm that we are not at the mercy of every passive feeling. Marcus Aurelius said, we demonstrate that we can hold ourselves within the face of chaos. Marcus, mastery of negative emotions does not remove but it transforms how we relate to them. instead of enemies. Marcus Aurelius said, they become teachers. Anger teaches us where our values. Resentment reveals where we have not let go. Marcus Aurelius said, frustration points to our need for patience or clarity. When we view emotions through this lens, they no longer have power over us. They become power growth. Through consistent awareness and practice. Marcus Aurelius said, we learn not to fear or fight these emotions, but ruse them and ultimately master them. Growth, both internal and external, is not something that occurs by accident. Marcus Aurelius said, it is the product of deliberate and conscious time. Life may often feel chaotic or unpredictable. Marcus Aurelius said, the truth is that within every moment we possess the power to choose how we respond. Marcus Aurelius said, this power of choice separates us from being mere propulhos. When we operate out of habit or unchecked emotion, Aurelius said, we give away that power. We react blindly, often in ways that reinforce patterns and limit our potential. But when we make the effort to pause, reflect, and act with intention, Marcus Aurelius said, we take control of our path and begin to cultivate. Reactions are often immediate and instinctive. Marcus Aurelius said, they come from a place of emotional conditional conditions, traumas, fears, and habits. Marcus Aurelius said, these reactions require no thought. They are automatic, driven by the need for instant relief or defense. Marcus Aurelius said, whether it's snapping in anger, withdrawing volition, these responses feel natural in the moment. Marcus Aurelius said, but they rarely lead to long-term benefit. Instead, create damage relationships. Marcus Aurelius said, or reinforce a limited self-image. What feels right in an unusual instant can often cause harm that lasts far longer. Marcus Aurelius said, conscious choice, however, demands a higher orchestral view to slow down, to question our instincts, Marcus Aurelius, and to ask what kind of person we want to be. When we face a challenging situation, the easy path is to let our emotions take control. Marcus Aurelius. Difficult and far more rewarding path is to pause and ask ourselves, what is the most constructive response in this moment? Aurelius said, what will serve my growth and the well-being of others? That pause creates a space, and within that space lies the possibility for transformation. Marcus Aurelius said, this isn't about denying our emotions or pretending or valuable and informative. Marcus Aurelius said, they offer insight into what matters to us, what fear we need healing. Marcus Aurelius said, but they are not always trustworthy guides, for recreational impulse is to live reactively. Marcus Aurelius said, never stepping back to evaluate whether those emoted in truth or fear, growth or avoidance. Marcus Aurelius said, conscious choice is about taking those emotions in but refusions to let them drive the wheel. Marcus Aurelius said, there is also a hidden cost to always reacting cautiously when we allow ourselves to act without thinking. Marcus Aurelius said, we give our power away to external forces, the tone of someone else's voice, a delay in traffic. Marcus Aurelius said, a critical comment, these things begin to control our mood, our actions, even our sense of identity. Marcus Aurelius said, we become like leaves in the wind, tossed around listless, never grounded, never in control. Aurelius said, but when we begin to choose our responses, we regain that control. We become anchored in our values. Marcus Aurelius said, rather than in fleeting emotion, choosing conscious responsibility for our actions. Marcus Aurelius, it's easy to blame others when we act out in anger or frustration. Marcus Aurelius said, we justify our reactions by pointing to some of you. But growth comes when we accept that. Marcus Aurelius said, regardless of what others do, we are still responsible. We do. No one forces us to react poorly. Marcus Aurelius said, no one takes away our ability to act within that power away. By taking ownership of our responses, Marcus Aurelius said, we reclaim authority over our lives. The habit is developed through practice. It is a discipline, not a gift. Each time we face a situation that tempts us to react impulsively, we are presented with a moment of training. At first, Marcus Aurelius said, we may still slip into old habits, but with awareness, those moments of pause become more frequent. The choice is more deliberate, and the outcomes more with our long-term values. Over time, Marcus Aurelius said, this consistent practice reshapes who we are. It isn't only how we act, but how we think, how we see the world, Marcus said, and how we see ourselves. In choosing our resuscitation, we become creators rather than reactors. Marcus Aurelius said, we shape our character through every decision, every word, and every moment of restraint. Marcus Aurelius said, it is through this conscious decision-making that we build resilience, patience, empathy, and strength. Marcus Aurelius said, each deliberate choice becomes a brick in the foundation of person we aspire to be. Marcus Aurelius said, we no longer act out of reflex, but out of define us, and instead begin to define ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, ultimately, every moment holds a choice. The choice to grow or respond, the choice to react or to respond. Marcus Aurelius said, the choice to live habitually or intentional. This, we begin to live with greater purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, we begin to act from a place of inner strength rather than outward pressure. And through this process, Marcus Aurelius said, we step fully into the potential of who we are meant to become. Instead of trying to change the world around us, Marcus Aurelius said, the more powerful path lies in changing ourselves. Often, we waste energy pointing fingers, criticizing others, or expecting external circumstances to align with our desires. Marcus Aurelius said, we believe that if people behaved differently or were more fair, we would finally find peace or satisfaction. But this mindset only reinforces a cycle of judgment, resentment, and powerlessness. Marcus Aurelius said, real growth begins when we shift our focus outward, when we recognize that our reactions, expectations, and emotions are within our control. Even if nothing else is. Marcus Aurelius said, the need to control the outside world often stirs sound within. Marcus Aurelius said, we project our dissatisfaction outward because offering the hard work of introspection. Marcus Aurelius said, but the traits that bother us in others often reflect some unresolved in ourselves insecurities, unmet desires, Marcus Aurelius said, or parts of our character we have not yet accepted. By look inward instead of outward, Marcus Aurelius said, we begin to see those frustrations not as flaws in the world, but as invitations to grow. We no longer ask, why are they like this? But instead, Marcus Aurelius said, why does this affect me so deeply? See, of becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Marcus Aurelius said, it's a commitment to examine ourselves with clear humility, to acknowledge our weaknesses without shame. Marcus Aurelius said, and to steadily build the kind of inner foundation doesn't validation or control. As we improve ourselves, Marcus Aurelius said, the world begins to look different, not because it has aim but because we have. We see with more compassion. Marcus Aurelius said, judge less harshly and react with more patience. In Foy, personal transformation breaks the cycle of hate and judgment. Aurelius said, not through force or manipulation, but through deliberate mastery of the self. In the end, the path to peace, strength, Marcus Aurelius said, and fulfillment does not lie in conquering the world or fix everyone's. It lies in mastering ourselves. Aurelius said, when we stop reacting blindly and start choosing kindly, when we turn inward instead of blaming outward. Marcus Aurelius said, and when we commit to growth over judgment, we get a break from the cycles that keep us trapped. True power is quiet, disciplined, and rooted in self-awareness. And through that power, Marcus Aurelius said, we don't just become better versions of ourselves. We become the kind of people who no longer need to hate what we once feared within. We become free.